I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, writing about my crumbling marriage like it's some sort of cautionary tale. But here I am, and I guess I need to get this off my chest. My name is Mark. I'm in my mid-30s, an average guy with an average job, married to a woman I once thought was my soulmate. Her name is Jessica, and we've been together for nearly a decade. We had our ups and downs, what couple does. But lately, things shifted in ways I didn't see coming. At first, it was subtle. Jessica started locking the bathroom door. I remember the first time she did it. I was standing outside, waiting for her to finish getting ready for a dinner party we were supposed to attend. When I knocked, she responded with a curt, "I just need some me time, okay?" I thought it was a little strange, but maybe she was feeling stressed. I didn't think much of it at the time, just brushed it off as one of those phases couples go through. As weeks turned into months, though, the me time became a regular thing. Jessica would spend hours in there, and when I asked her what was taking so long, she'd snap at me, saying I didn't understand how hard it was for her to juggle everything. I tried to be supportive but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The way she'd curl her lip when I'd suggest we spend some quality time together, it was like I was a nuisance rather than her husband. I started noticing other odd behaviors too. She'd come home late from work more often, claiming she was caught up with the project. I'd catch glimpses of her texting on her phone, quick glimpses that she'd try to hide. It all seemed innocuous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was slipping away from me. I tried to talk to her about it, but every time I brought it up, she'd roll her eyes and accuse me of being paranoid. Then came the day that changed everything. I had taken a day off work, feeling like I needed to reconnect with her. I planned lunch, set the table, and was ready to surprise her. When I got home, I noticed her car was in the driveway, but the house was eerily quiet. I called out for her, but there was no response. Anxiety twisted in my stomach as I walked through the house looking for any sign of her. When I reached the bathroom, the door was locked. "Jess." I called again, confusion settling in. No answer. I waited for what felt like an eternity, pacing the small hallway. Then I had an idea. I quietly walked over to our bedroom, knowing that she sometimes left her phone on the dresser. I opened the door, the hinges creaking, and there it was, the phone face up with a message notification flashing. I shouldn't have looked, I know that now. But curiosity got the better of me. Glancing down, I saw a text from a guy named Jake. My heart raced as I read the messages, the context of their conversations hitting me harder than any punch could. Flirty banter, plans to meet up, and explicit messages I wished I could unsee. In that moment, the truth crashed down on me like a tidal wave. Jessica was cheating on me. I felt sick. Confusion and anger coursed through my veins like wildfire. I didn't even register the sound of the bathroom door unlocking until I heard her voice. "Mark, what are you doing in here?" she asked, her tone casual, but I could sense the tension hanging in the air. I turned to face her, blood boiling, and the words just spilled out of me. "Who the hell is Jake?" Her face drained of color as realization hit her. She hadn't secured her little secret well enough. I stood there, waiting for her to come up with an excuse, but all I saw on her face was the fear of being caught. The confrontation that followed was a whirlwind of emotions. She tried to deny it, claiming it was just harmless flirting. But as she stumbled through her excuses, the anger boiled over. I couldn't believe the lies pouring out of her mouth. That day changed everything for me. I had trusted her, and she had broken that trust in the most devastating way possible. That was just the beginning of a long emotional journey I never anticipated. If you want to continue, let me know. The confrontation lasted what felt like a lifetime, but in reality, it was probably no more than 20 minutes. Jessica's initial shock morphed into anger as she realized I had found out about her affair. I remember her eyes narrowing as she attempted to twist the narrative, painting herself as the victim rather than acknowledging the betrayal. "You're overreacting, Mark," she exclaimed, her voice a mix of defiance and desperation. "It's just a guy from work. We were just having fun. You know how stressed I've been lately." "Fun?" I shot back, incredulous. "You call cheating on your husband fun? How long has this been going on?" "Just a few weeks," she stammered, glancing away. "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. A few weeks. Those words echoed in my head, a clock ticking down the seconds of our marriage that I had thought were genuine. It felt like a dagger to my gut. I had spent countless nights wondering why she was distant, why she had been locking the bathroom door, all while she was out there betraying me. "Do you even hear yourself?" I snapped, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "You say it like it's nothing." She crossed her arms defensively, but I could see the cracks forming in her facade. "I did. Want to hurt you. I thought it was just a phase. I thought we could work through it." Work through it? I couldn't contain my disbelief. "How do you expect me to trust you again after this?" Jessica's defiance crumbled, and for a moment I saw a flicker of remorse in her eyes. But before I could let that hope seep into my heart, she quickly shifted back to anger. "You're the one who's always busy with work. Where were you when I needed you?" It felt like a slap. She was trying to shift the blame onto me, as if my long hours were at fault for her decision to cheat. I was furious, but beneath that anger was a deep sadness. I had dedicated so much of my life to her and this marriage, only to find out it was all a lie. After that explosive confrontation, I stormed out of the house, needing space to think, to breathe. I drove aimlessly, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal, anger, and disbelief. I couldn't comprehend how the woman I loved had turned into someone so deceitful. I felt lost, floating in a sea of confusion without an anchor. I ended up at a park, sitting on a bench, staring into space as the world went on around me. I thought about our life together, the good and the bad. We had built a life full of memories, laughter, and love, or at least I thought we had. I felt like a fool, realizing now that I had ignored the signs, each one a breadcrumb leading me to this painful truth. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I felt a surge of resolve. I couldn't let this define me. I had to think about what I wanted moving forward. My heart ached, but I needed a plan. I couldn't confront Jessica again until I had sorted through my own feelings. That night I didn't go home. I stayed with a friend, Jake, who had been my confidant since college. He was supportive, listening as I recounted the events of that day. I could see the sympathy in his eyes, but I also noticed a flicker of something else, a hint of anger directed toward Jessica. "Mark, you deserve better than this," he said, his voice steady. "Do let her manipulate you any further. She made her choice." Those words struck a chord. I had spent too long letting Jessica control the narrative. I needed to take charge of my own life and make a decision about what came next. It was time for me to think about my own happiness rather than trying to fix what was already broken. I spent that night in turmoil, wrestling with my emotions. Could I forgive her? Could I even imagine a future with someone who had shattered my trust? The anger was still fresh, but beneath it lay a tangle of love and sorrow. The next morning I made a decision. I would confront Jessica again, armed not just with anger but with clarity and purpose. This time I wouldn't let her twist the truth. I wouldn't let her manipulate me into feeling guilty for her decisions. I would demand accountability. But how would I do all of this without losing myself in the process? If you'd like to continue, let me know. The morning after my confrontation with Jessica, I felt an unusual mix of dread and determination. I knew I had to face her again, but this time I would be prepared. No more letting her sidestep the truth with half-hearted excuses and emotional blackmail. It was time for me to reclaim my voice. I returned home, steeling myself as I walked through the front door. The house felt eerily quiet, the silence amplifying the unresolved tension between us. I found Jessica sitting on the couch, her hair disheveled, wearing the same expression of guilty defiance that had become all too familiar. She looked up at me, eyes wide with a mixture of concern and irritation. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. "Of course I'm back," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "We need to talk." She rolled her eyes, but I pressed on. "No more deflecting, Jess. I want the truth. You say it was just fun, but that kind of fun tears people apart. How can I trust you after everything?" She opened her mouth to respond, but quickly caught herself, looking down at her hands instead. I could see she was trying to gather her thoughts, but I wasn't going to let her off the hook this time. "Let's be honest here. This isn't just some fling. This is an affair that you chose to pursue while we were married. How did you think this would end?" I continued, voice growing steadier with each word. Did you think I wouldn't find out or that it wouldn't hurt me? I trusted you, Jessica. Her face flushed with a mixture of anger and hurt. You don't know what it's like for me. You think I wanted to cheat. I was lonely. You were never around. Lonely, I echoed, incredulous. You had me and you chose to betray me. That's not loneliness, that's a choice. If you were feeling neglected, you could have talked to me. Instead, you went out and sought comfort somewhere else. Tears filled her eyes, but I wasn't falling for it. I had to maintain my composure. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to understand what is going on in your head. How did we get to this point? She sniffed, wiping a tear with her sleeve. I don't know. I guess I just got caught up in everything. It felt exciting at first, but then I realized how wrong it was. I just didn't know how to stop. Exciting? I scoffed. Is that what you call the destruction of our marriage? It's a betrayal, Jess, and let's be real, excitement is nothing without commitment. The silence hung heavily between us. I could see the gears turning in her mind, but she was still grasping for a way to justify her actions. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could manage it. I thought we could fix things after. Fix things, I repeated, incredulity bubbling up again. Cheating, that's not fixing anything. You've damaged this relationship beyond repair, and now it's up to me to decide what I want to do next. Jessica looked small, her bravado crumbling under the weight of her choices. What are you saying, Mark? Do you want a divorce? Is that what you really want? I took a deep breath. Honestly, I don't know yet. I need time to think. But you need to understand that trust is gone. You've shattered the foundation of our marriage, and I can't just forget that. Please, she begged, vulnerability creeping into her voice. I'll do whatever it takes. To fix this, just give me another chance. Part of me wanted to believe her, to hope that she could change, but I knew that I couldn't rush into a decision out of guilt or fear of being alone. I need time, Jess. I don't want to just react out of anger. I want to be able to make a clear decision, one that doesn't come from a place of pain. Her face turned stoic. So, what happens now? Are we just going to pretend everything is normal? We can't pretend, I said firmly. This will take time and we need to communicate openly. If we decide to work on this, there will be conditions. I need to know you're fully committed to repairing the damage. Of course, she said, her voice softer now. I'll do anything you need, I just want you to forgive me. I shook my head, feeling a mix of sadness and determination. Forgiveness isn't a switch I can flip, it's a process, but I won't be dragged into a cycle of lies again. If we're going to try to work through this, it has to start with honesty. As the conversation came to a close, I realized that I was still reeling from the emotional impact of everything that had happened. My heart was heavy and the road ahead felt uncertain. But I knew one thing: I wouldn't allow her betrayal to define me. I had to take control of my own life, no matter how painful that decision might be. The days that followed were a blur of uncertainty. Conversations with Jessica were strained, filled with awkward silences and forced apologies. But deep down, I began to realize that while I might not have all the answers, I had the power to choose my path forward. If you'd like to continue, let me know. The days turned into weeks, and the atmosphere in the house felt like walking on eggshells. Jessica and I were caught in a loop of uneasy discussions, attempts at normalcy punctuated by reminders of her betrayal. I was still processing the shock of it all, and every time we tried to engage in casual conversation, the betrayal loomed over us like an ominous cloud. I found myself withdrawing, spending more time at work and with friends. I needed space to think, to heal, and to decide what I wanted for my future. The nights spent in silence were the hardest. I lay awake, replaying our conversations in my mind, the moment of discovery, the confrontations. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, and I often wondered if there was a way back from this. One evening, after another strained dinner, I found myself out on the balcony, staring at the stars. I felt disconnected from everything, my heart heavy with a mix of sadness and anger. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my messages. I saw a text from Jake, a simple "How are you holding up?" It was just the distraction I needed. I typed back quickly, pouring my feelings into the message. "It's rough, man. I feel so confused. Jessica says she wants to work on things, but I don't know if I can trust her again." Jake replied almost instantly. "You deserve to be happy, Mark. Don't rush any decisions. Take your time." His words echoed in my mind, and I realized I had been so focused on Jessica's feelings that I hadn't given myself the same consideration. I had spent years building a life with her, and now I had to think about what was best for me. The next day, I decided to take a step back, allowing myself the space to think. I reached out to a therapist I had heard about through a mutual friend. I needed someone to help me untangle my emotions, to discuss the impact of the betrayal without judgment. At our first session, I felt a wave of relief. It was good to talk openly, to voice my fears and frustrations without worrying about how it might affect Jessica. Over the following weeks, I began to explore my feelings more deeply. I learned about the phases of grief and how betrayal can feel like a loss of trust, a loss of stability. I realized I was grieving not just the relationship I had, but the idea of what I thought my life would look like. There were days when I felt strong, empowered by my decisions to prioritize myself. But there were also days of deep sadness where I questioned everything. One evening, after a particularly tough therapy session, I returned home feeling drained. Jessica was sitting in the living room, flipping through channels on the TV. She glanced up, and for the first time in a while I could see genuine concern etched on her face. "Mark," she said softly, "how was your day?" I considered her question, wanting to be honest without opening old wounds unnecessarily. "It was hard. I talked through some things I've been feeling." She nodded, her expression shifting to one of empathy. "I'm really sorry for everything. I want to make this work." Her sincerity was palpable, but I couldn't ignore the reality of what had happened. "I appreciate that, Jess, but I need to focus on myself right now. I can't just pretend things are fine when they are." "I get that," she replied, her voice steady, "and I want to support you in whatever way you need." I took a deep breath, deciding it was time to lay my cards on the table. "I've been thinking about our relationship, about what it means to rebuild trust. It's going to take time, maybe a lot of it." "I understand," she said, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. "I'll wait for you. Whatever it takes." As I looked at her, I sensed that a part of her genuinely wanted to change, but I couldn't help but wonder if that was enough. Could I trust her to follow through on her promises, or was this just another ploy to ease her guilt? In the following days, I continued to focus on myself, going to therapy and talking to friends. I explored new hobbies, trying to rediscover who I was outside of the marriage. But every time I looked at Jessica, the memories of her betrayal washed over me like a cold wave. One night, I decided to confront the reality of our situation head-on. I invited Jessica to join me for a walk in the nearby park, hoping the fresh air would provide a conducive atmosphere for a serious talk. As we strolled through the moonlit paths, the cool breeze rustled the leaves, and I felt a sense of clarity settle over me. "Jess, I need to know something," I began, my heart racing. "Can you truly commit to working on yourself in this relationship? Because if we're going to move forward, I need to see real change." She took a deep breath, pausing to collect her thoughts. "I know I messed up. I'm ready to do whatever it takes, counseling, communicating better, everything. I want to be better for you and for us." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. "This isn't just about saying the right things. I need to see actions that align with your words." "I understand," she said earnestly. "I'll prove it to you, I promise." I nodded, feeling a mixture of hope and caution. It was a fragile foundation to build on, but for the first time in a while I sensed that maybe, just maybe, there was a flicker of possibility in our future. But as I walked home that night, I knew the journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. I still had to confront the pain of betrayal, and I needed to protect my heart while allowing space for healing. Uncertainty loomed, but for the first time in a while, I felt a glimmer of hope. "If you want to continue, let me know." The weeks that followed that night's conversation began to reshape the landscape of our relationship. Jessica poured herself into making amends, attending therapy sessions with me, and trying her best to open up about her feelings. It was both comforting and disconcerting. On one hand, I saw genuine effort on her part. On the other hand, I struggled to reconcile that effort with the betrayal I still felt clawing at my insides. We started having more open discussions about our marriage, often revisiting the roots of her infidelity. Jessica began to share her insecurities, the feelings of being overwhelmed by work and the demands of our life together. I listened, trying to empathize while also grappling with my own hurt. There were moments when I could see glimmers of the person I had fallen in love with, and then there were times when her words felt like an echo of the lies I despised. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I noticed a shift in our dynamic. For the first time in what felt like ages, I found myself laughing at something silly she said. It was brief, but that laughter felt significant. It reminded me of the spark we once had. Yet that spark was always tinged with the shadow of betrayal, a constant reminder of what had transpired. Still, I held on to the hope that healing was possible. I began setting small goals for ourselves, date nights, weekend outings, and open conversations about our expectations moving forward. I wanted to create a new foundation for our relationship, one built on communication and transparency. During one of our weekend outings, we decided to visit a local art exhibit. As we wandered through the galleries, Jessica seemed genuinely engaged, her eyes lighting up at each piece. It felt refreshing to see that spark again. We shared laughter and opinions, our connection slowly rebuilding. But just as everything seemed to be on an upswing, a conversation I had with Jake during lunch threw me into a tailspin. I had been venting about my frustrations, sharing how Jessica was trying hard to rebuild trust. Jake's expression shifted and he leaned in closer. "Mark, I want to be honest with you. I saw Jessica last week and, well, she was with Jake, the guy she was texting." My heart dropped. My mind raced as I processed his words. "What do you mean? She was with him?" "Yeah, I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to interfere, but I couldn't keep it from you. They were at that bar on 5th Street. Pretty cozy together." The room felt like it was spinning. I could feel my hands shaking as I took a sip of water to steady myself. "I can't believe this. After everything we talked about." "I'm sorry, Mark. I know it's tough, but I had to tell you. You deserve to know the truth no matter how much it hurts." That night I confronted Jessica again. My heart raced as I approached the topic, struggling to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk about something serious." She looked up from her phone, sensing the gravity of my tone. "What is it?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I heard from Jake that you were seen with him last week. You said you were trying to make things right, but this feels like a betrayal all over again." Her face paled, and for a moment I could see the panic in her eyes. "Mark, I swear it wasn't what you think." "Then what was it?" I pressed. "Because this doesn't look good." "I was just talking to him. I didn't mean for it to happen like that. I swear." I'm still trying to figure things out. It was as if a dam broke inside me. "Trying to figure things out? You've put me through hell and now you're still talking to him, after everything we've been through." "I didn't want to hurt you," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "But you did, again," I shouted, feeling the anger boil over. "How can I trust anything you say now? You're still lying." She crumpled into a ball on the floor, sobbing. "I made a mistake. I thought I could handle it, and I thought maybe I could still be friends with him. I'm so confused." "Confused? You think that's an excuse? I can't keep doing this." I felt a wave of emotions crashing over me, pain laced with anger and disappointment. "You need to decide what you want. You can't have it both ways." In that moment, I realized something crucial. I couldn't keep putting myself through this agony. I had tried to give her a chance, but each time we took a step forward, it felt like we were dragged 2 steps back. I left the room, needing air, needing to think. I walked out onto the balcony, my heart pounding. There I was, standing on the precipice of a decision that would change everything. I could no longer live in limbo, caught between hope and despair. It was time to choose my own happiness over the pain of betrayal. The next morning, with a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks, I prepared to have the hardest conversation of my life. "If you want to continue, let me know." The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the living room as I sat at the dining table, fidgeting with my coffee cup. I had spent the night tossing and turning, unable to shake the uncertainty that now defined my relationship with Jessica. Today, I knew I had to make a decision, one that I hoped would finally bring me peace. When Jessica walked into the kitchen, I could see the remnants of last night's confrontation etched on her face. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, but I needed to put my feelings aside for a moment to focus on what was crucial: clarity for both of us. "Mark," she began, her voice trembling, "I'm so sorry about last night. I never meant to hurt you again. I thought I could handle it, but I see now how naive that was." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Jessica, I've thought long and hard about this. We have been through so much, and I've tried to give you the chance to prove that you want to make things right. But after everything, after last night, I realize I can't keep living like this." Her expression shifted from confusion to fear, and I pressed on. "I need to look out for my own well-being. I can no longer trust you, and that trust is the foundation of any relationship. You've shown me time and time again that you're not ready to prioritize us." "Please, don't say that," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I can change. I know I messed up, but I love you, Mark. I want to fix this." "I know you say that, but love isn't enough when it's built on lies," I said, my heart heavy. "You have to understand, Jessica, that trust takes a long time to build, but it can be destroyed in an instant. I can't keep waiting for you to decide what you want. It isn't fair to either of us." "Mark, I'll do better. Just give me more time." I shook my head, feeling the weight of my decision settle in. "It's not just about giving you more time. It's about recognizing that this cycle isn't healthy for either of us. I can't keep going around in circles." Tears streamed down her face, and for a moment I felt a pang of guilt. But deep down, I knew that this decision was necessary. "I think it's best if we separate for now," I said gently. "Maybe some time apart will help us both gain perspective on what we really want out of life." The realization hit her like a freight train, and she slumped down into a chair, visibly shaken. "You're serious, aren't you?" "I am," I replied, my voice steady. "This isn't easy for me, but I need to prioritize my own happiness. I can't keep investing in something that feels so unstable." Jessica buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking as she cried. My heart ached for her, but I couldn't allow myself to be swayed by her tears. It was time to draw the line between love and self-preservation. "I want you to know that I still care about you, but this isn't working for me anymore," I said, fighting back my own emotions. "I hope you can find clarity during this time as well." She looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of horror and sadness. "I never wanted it to come to this. I thought we could fix it together." "Sometimes fixing things means letting go," I said softly. "It's not the end of the world. It's just a new beginning for both of us." As she nodded slowly, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. This was the closure I needed, the resolution that I had been searching for in the aftermath of her betrayal. We spent the rest of the day packing up old memories, photographs, and belongings. It was a bittersweet process, filled with laughter and tears, as we reminisced about the good times while acknowledging the heartbreak that had transpired. By the end of the day, Jessica left for her mother house, and I stood alone in our once shared home, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I had taken the first step toward healing, but the journey ahead would still be challenging. In the weeks and months that followed, I focused on rediscovering myself. I reconnected with friends, pursued hobbies I had abandoned, and found joy in my independence. Though the pain of betrayal lingered, I began to see it as a lesson, an opportunity for growth rather than a defining moment of my life. As I reflect on this experience, I realize that self-worth and trust are invaluable. I learned that love cannot thrive in an environment of lies and deceit. I also discovered the importance of understanding my own feelings and prioritizing my mental health in the face of betrayal. To anyone facing similar struggles, I urge you to listen to your instincts. Trust your gut and recognize when it's time to put yourself first. Healing is a journey, but it's one worth taking, even if it means saying goodbye to what once was. Moving forward, I carry with me the lessons learned from my relationship with Jessica, lessons that will shape my future. I know that I deserve love built on honesty, and I'm determined to find it even if it takes time. Life goes on, and so will I.